Today, I'm officially releasing my open source audiobook maker as a package, and let me give you a quick demonstration of how it works, and then I'm going to go and show you how to install it. So here we have it right here. I'm going to go ahead and clear my background image so it's just default, and I can go ahead and select a text file. I'm going to select a text file. We're going to name the book, we're going to name it myself because I'm going to be using my own voice, and then I'm going to select a voice, myself voice, and then we're going to start generation. So just at a click of a button, it's going to start audiobook generation, and then you'll start seeing some sentences appear. So what's happening is it's sending sentences over onto Tortoise right here. As you can see, it received a sentence and it's going to be given back. So let's go ahead and now play this sentence and get a feel for how the audio sounds. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. He didn't say any more, but we've always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that. Alrighty, and I can go ahead and pause audio by clicking the pause button here. Let's say that I close out of it, which I'm going to do real quick. I've got a few options now. I can now click on file and load that existing audiobook for myself, and it'll load the sentences, and some of the sentences that did not generate, it's going to say it has not been generated, so I can now click on continue audiobook generation. So I would just find the audiobook I want to continue regenerating, click select folder, and then use the same settings for my voice that I used from the previous generation. So this will save index effect, voice model, voice index, and voice pitch. So I'm going to select yes, and it's going to continue on doing the exact same thing. So the audio quality of this is spectacular, especially since it's combining Tortoise and RVC. So let's go ahead and now get into the installation of it. And some prerequisites for the audiobook maker: you do need to have an NVIDIA graphics card running on Windows, and then you also need Tortoise installed previously on your computer. If you don't have Tortoise installed, go check the video that I have on it. It's a thorough installation and should get Tortoise up and running for you. Now let's head on over into my GitHub page. So it's going to be the audiobook maker, and if we scroll down, you can see the prerequisites right here. Some of those are old, but you do need this 7-zip extractor, so go ahead and click the link. It'll bring you here, and then we're gonna install this 64-bit x64 one. So download and then install that. The wizard should be pretty quick on that. And then also later along the line, if you are running into any CUDA issues, make sure you have CUDA 11.8 installed, and the link is down in the GitHub. You go to Windows, x64, 11 or 10, and then you download the exe local and then run through the wizard for that installation. And so those are the prerequisites for running this audiobook maker. And then we're gonna do the package installation in this video. I do outline a manual installation, so if you are into those type of installations, you can go through that, but we're gonna do the package installation for ease of use. So let's scroll on up, and then we're gonna click on this releases area right here. Click the 1 tags, and then go ahead and click V1. Inside of here, it's going to bring us to a link that we can click, and we're going to download it off of my Hugging Face space. So here we are. Once you are here, go ahead and click this download button. It's going to be a pretty hefty file, so just go ahead and find a spot to put it in, and then go ahead and save it. Alrighty, and once it's done downloading, all you're going to do now is right click on it, and then go on over into 7-zip. And then go ahead and do extract to audiobook maker v1, and so give it about 3 to 5 minutes and it's going to extract depending on the speed of your CPU, and by the end of it, it's going to be about 6 gigabytes, so you do need quite a bit of space to run it. But it should be this audiobook maker version 1.0, and once you have this, all you need to do is go to startpackage.bat and then just run it. So let's go ahead, double click on that, and it's gonna go ahead and now launch the audiobook maker. So that's all we need to do for the audiobook maker to get installed on your computer. And then yeah, so here is the window, and then here is the command line in case anything happens. So if there are any errors, it will pop up inside of this window, so that'll help, you know, debug the issues if you need any assistance on that. So here we go. the audiobook maker is up and running, but there's one step that we need to do before that, and that is to launch Tortoise. So we're gonna do that right now. Head on over to where your Tortoise installation is on your computer from that previous video, and then just go ahead and launch it. So that would be this start.bat. I already have mine installed and launched, so here we are right here. And then what we're gonna do is navigate on over to localhost 7860. So go ahead and navigate to that, and we'll be on the Tortoise page. So there are a couple of things that we need to note down here to get the audiobook maker running correctly, and that is gonna be voice. Inside of voice, you want to find the voice that you're going to be using. In this case, I'm going to use me, but you would just change it to whatever you want. So find a voice that you want to use. It should be working from the Tortoise tutorial, and then go on over into the audiobook maker folder, go into this tort.yaml. You can actually just open this with Notepad, for example, and then inside of here, you're going to insert that trained name. So in this case, I would use me, as that is the voice I want to use. And then some other settings that you may want to adjust are things like sample, iterations, and temperature. I'm going to go ahead and change my temperature to 0.8. And then if you want it to run a little bit faster, you can put samples down to 2. As well, I'm going to change the diffusion sampler to DDIM. And then I'm gonna go ahead, file, save. So that's gonna save some settings. There are some other things you can adjust in here. They are all the same settings that are actually inside of the Tortoise window right here. If you click on show experimental settings, you'll find all of these other settings, but that's beyond this video. The other thing we need to do is inside of the settings tab, you want to change the results folder to an absolute path. You don't want it to be relative. So in order to do this, you have to go into that AI voice cloning folder, aka Tortoise. And then something like results, this is where the folders are. All you would need to do is double click into it, and then go ahead and do right click, copy address as text, and then you would just paste that into here and you would be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine like this because I have a custom folder where I save my TTS voice files. And then the last thing you need to set is your auto-regressive model. And this will be the trained model that you would have done from the Tortoise video. Now for the auto-regressive model, the reason we're setting all of this up inside of Tortoise is because we don't have access to this inside of the audiobook maker. So that is one current limitation that we have. I am working on trying to figure out ways to integrate it into the audiobook maker, but that is a beast of a challenge to conquer. So I will be doing that a little bit later. But once you have the auto-regressive model set, you should be good to go. Make sure you have your results folder, and then lastly as well, make sure you have the voice. With your tort.yaml set up, we should be good to go. Now, the last thing that we do need to generate an audio file is a text file. So any text should work. So what I like to do is open up something like Notepad and then copy and paste whatever body of text you want to do. For example, whatever body of text that you want, you can just go ahead and highlight it, copy and paste it into a text file, and then just save it so we can get an inference running on it. So it only takes text files at the current moment due to other difficulties with reading different file types like PDFs and whatnot. So that is just currently a limitation. I am working on getting that better, but once you have a text file and then the tort.yaml all up and running, we are good to go. So with all of that, if you had closed the start package, let's just go ahead and relaunch it. So get the audiobook maker running up once again. And here we go. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and now full screen it, and we've got several different things that we can do here now. For me, I'm gonna go ahead and lower the font size. Depending on your aspect ratio, it might be a little bit different, so that's why I have this font size button. You can make it larger, you can make it smaller, and then just a small little quality of life thing. You can set a background image. So it comes with a default train background image, and this is just currently in beta. I just kind of wanted to add it just for some customization things, and I'm just gonna go ahead and now clear that. And before I jump into the audiobook maker, if you enjoy the content that I bring to you all freely, consider becoming a member of the channel. It really helps me out, and I appreciate anything that you all can support me with, and really encourages me to continue making content for you all. But with that, let's go ahead, jump into the audiobook maker, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Now into the meat of how things work. We're going to select that text file. So click on select text file, find the text file that we copy and pasted the text into, and then click open, and then we can name it. So I'm just going to go ahead and name it re0. Now these next two ones are the voice model and voice index files. Those are files you would find from like RVC. So for the voice model, you would be able to put your own voice and then also the voice index. The way that you add them is if you go into the Audiobook Maker folder, you would just go ahead and go into voice models and place them here. And then in voices index, you would place the voice indexes there. In this case, I have provided one called Azas for you guys to use, and we're gonna inference on that for today's example. Now, the index effect is similar to how it affects in RVC. So the more you have it, the more the index has an effect, and that kind of controls accent in my experience with RVC. Now, voice pitch is going to be how much you want to change the pitch of the voice. For example, if you're using a male trained voice in Tortoise and then a female RVC model, you would increase the voice pitch to somewhere around 12. Since that is what I'm doing today, I'm going to increase it to 12. The reason I'm doing that is the Tortoise autoregressive model that I chose is my own voice, and the voice for Azas is a female voice, which is why I'm doing the 12. There is this pause between sentences, but don't worry about that. That's important for when we're going to export the audiobook, and then we can click start audiobook generation. So that's what I'm gonna do, and it's going to now start generating some text. So you do need to make sure that you have Tortoise open. If you don't have Tortoise open, it's not going to generate any text, and you can see that it's sending things over into Tortoise if I scroll down. So make sure Tortoise is open. While it's generating, you can't really do anything else on the interface. I have these buttons grayed out so that you don't accidentally cause any issues. And yeah, you just wait until it finishes generating, or you can play the audio as it's going. So if your GPU is fast enough, you can click the top one, click play all from selected, and it'll just read it out to you. So we're gonna go ahead and sample that real quick and start with play all from selected.
The men gazed at him with scorn and contempt as Subaru appraised them. They appeared to be in their mid-20s. Their clothes were filthy, and it was as though their inner evil had manifested on their faces. They weren't subhuman, but they couldn't be called decent humans either. Damn, a compulsory event. Facing the grinning men, Subaru wiped his face and stood up in a panic.
Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and pause that because it has finished generating. And here we are, we've got 12 sentences, and there are a couple of other buttons that I want to go over in here as well. So for example, let's say we want to regenerate an audio. Let's say we don't like how it sounds. We can regenerate audio. So let's play this one real quick.
They appeared to be in their mid-20s.
That sounded a little bit weird at the end. It sounded a little bit flat. So I'm going to click regenerate audio. Now the interface is going to freeze. So once it is unfrozen, and you can see the buttons highlighting again, it's finished regenerating audio. So let's go ahead and play that again.
They appeared to be in their mid-20s.
So that sounded a little bit better in my opinion. It did sound a little bit weird, but you can always regenerate audio. And since it's local, you're not losing any money as you would if you're doing something like an API call to some cloud service. So that is awesome. And now there's this last button right here, which is continue audiobook generation. And since we're 100% done, it's not going to actually do anything. So for example, if we go into audiobooks, go into re0 audiobook, select folder, it's going to say, do you want to use the same settings from the previous generation of this audiobook? I would just say yes. And it's gonna load all of them and not do anything because we have finished. So that brings up one thing and one feature I want to show, and that is editing the text that you have in an audiobook. So bear with me right here for a little bit, but this is the text file right here. Say you want to add another sentence to the end of it. I'm going to say something like test sentence. I'm going to put that one at the end, and then I'm going to say test sentence 2 at the beginning. So let's go ahead and save that right there. And then now we're gonna do something that I call updating the audiobook. So if you go into file, you can update audiobook sentences, go into the text file that you just edited, which would be this text_small, open it. And then what this warning is, it says that this will delete audio for existing sentences if they have been modified as well. Do you want to proceed? So for example, if we modify any of these sentences, say for example, we say ignored that the, it's going to delete the audio for this entire sentence and then regenerate it. And that's just because of some of the logic that's limiting for how I'm doing things. And that's just a warning. So I think I'll have to give an example on this just to make it a little bit more concrete. But let's go ahead and select yes. And then now after that, we're going to select the audiobook directory. So in this case, we're using the ReZero audiobook. Select folder, and then would you like to generate new audio for new sentences? I'm going to click yes, and that's going to generate 2 new sentences using the same settings as I just clicked that there. So here we have now test sentence 2, and then it skipped over all of these other ones because it already finished. And then here's test sentence 1, the first one that we did. So we can now play audio,
Test sentence.
and then play the other audio.
Test sentence 2.
So that has been updated. And then let me go ahead and demonstrate what happens if you edit sentences. So I'm going to go ahead and just add the in here. And note, these are sentences that had already been generated. So I'm going to mess up a couple of sentences. And then I'm going to save the file. Now I'm going to update audiobook sentences, go into the text file that I edited, open it. We're going to say yes, and then open up the audiobook that we want to edit. So select the folder, and then in this case, I'm not going to do a generation of sentences. Let's just say I say no. And so now this allows me to show off the continue audiobook generation button. If we click on continue audiobook generation, we can go over into the audiobook, which is the ReZero one, select the folder, and then we can continue generating audio. So here we go now. And to show you, here are the sentences right here that I edited. They'll start appearing one by one. As you can see, it's already 92% of the way done because many of the sentences have already had their audio generated. And here we go. We have finished generating the ones that we edited. So here is the here, and that is the update audiobook sentences file. So alrighty, so now that we have an audiobook finished, let's say now you want to export the audiobook to a single file, because if we head on over into the audiobooks folder, which is inside of the audiobook maker, this is where all of your audiobooks are stored. Inside of here, you have a bunch of single audio files, and then you've got these 2 JSON files, which I'll go over a little bit later. So what this export audiobook button is going to do is collect all those and put it into one single file. And there's one toggleable thing that we can change if we want to adjust a couple of things, and that is this pause between sentences slider. So this is if you want a little bit of an additional pause between each file. So for example, it would read the first sentence, pause for, let's just say 2.9 seconds, and then read the second sentence, pause for 2.9 seconds, and then read the third sentence, so on and so forth. So that is what the pause between sentences does. I do plan on making it a little bit more dynamic so that you could generate it at a sentence by sentence level, but I haven't done that yet. In this case, I'm going to leave it at 0, and then we're going to export audiobook. So here we are. We're going to click on that ReZero audiobook, select the folder, and then what it's gonna do is, if we head on over now into the audiobook folder, you can see a new one's been created where it says exported audiobooks, and it's just one single file. So let's give a quick listen to it real quick.
The men gazed at him with scorn and contempt as Subaru appraised them. They appeared to be in their mid-20s.
All right, so there we go. That is the exported audiobook right there. Let's say that we want to re-export it for some reason. We just click on the audiobook again, and inside of the exported audiobooks, you'll get one more. So it doesn't overwrite it in this case, it just appends it. So now you've got audiobook 1 and audiobook 2, or 0 and 1. So that is that. There aren't too many other things that I've added into it. I do maybe plan on doing a couple of quality of life things and enhancing it over in the future, but right now it's pretty darn good in my opinion. And then, like I said, I went over the background. You can select the background image if you want. But for the most part, that is the majority of the audiobook maker. And actually, there's one thing that I did not go over, and that is load existing audiobook. So let's say I close out of this, and then I open up the audiobook maker at another time. That option allows you to now load in that existing audiobook. So to do that, you just go into the audiobooks folder, you click on the audiobook you are generating, and then you click select folder, and it's gonna all appear here. So, and then it by default, it changes your voice model, your voice index, index effect, and then voice pitch. It automatically went to 12 because I loaded in this audiobook. So now I'm going to go over a couple of smaller technical details that might help a little bit of the tinkerers out there if you're wondering what's happening a little bit. So inside of this generation settings JSON, if we go into it, these are the generation settings of the previous generation. So this helps to store the pitch and then the selected voice. So for example, if you are generating in one instance and then you close out of it and you want to continue generating, it will pull the previous values that you had used and then continue generating. So in this case, that's what this pop-up is for. Do you want to use the same settings? So this would change the voice, the index, and the pitch and all of that. And then there's one more thing inside of the audiobooks that is important, which is this text audio map JSON. So what this does is it maps the sentences to an audio path, and then it provides another parameter that asks if it's been generated. So if it's been generated, it's going to say true. If it's not, it's going to say false. And that's how the audiobook maker knows that the audio has not been generated for a specific sentence. This JSON is what determines how the audiobook maker functions and how it generates sentences. So it's pretty dang important for the functionality of it all. But yeah, there's not much more really for me to go over for the audiobook maker. It is pretty simple, but it allows you to get access to the RVC to TTS pipeline that I've been touting on my channel pretty easily by just downloading the package and then running it. So if you're running into any issues, let me show you that real quick. Please head on over into the GitHub, go over to the issues tab, and then go ahead and start up a new issue. This allows me to keep track of things much better and allows me to reference issues or other answers if there are other answers available. And when you are making an issue, try to make the title as descriptive as possible. And then as well in here, do something like Windows with an NVIDIA 3060 or something like that. Make sure you have your operating system, I'm assuming Windows, and then your graphics cards. So that would help me better diagnose the issue without having to go back and forth on some questions. And then inside of the window here, if you're getting any errors, just go ahead, highlight it, copy it, and then paste it into here so that I could see your stack trace as well. So go over here to report issues. That'll help me keep track of things, and it's much easier than running it on Discord. But yeah, I'll be talking a little bit more on some of the experiences that I went through trying to make this and all of that cool stuff. And then one last thing, I would like to have a quick little shout out to the people in my Discord that helped run the pre-release of this package just to iron out some of the bugs and all of that stuff. So there will probably still be some bugs, but at least with that help, it helped me rule out quite a bit of things and was a great help. So thank you all on my Discord for that, and that is going to be the end of today's video. So see you later.